The alien fleet arrived before dawn broke on Earth's side of the stars. To them, it was a simple operation, a containment mission to subdue a young, reckless species that refused to bow. Their ships, sleek and silver, moved through the void like blades drawn from a sheath. The commanders on the bridge of the lead vessel watched the blue planet turn slowly below, unaware that the silence they mistook for surrender was something else entirely. In orbit, the human fleet was quiet. No comm chatter, no signals, no visible defense lines. It looked as if Earth had accepted defeat. The alien admiral, a tall, six-eyed creature named Kalor, leaned forward in his command chair. "No resistance," he murmured, almost disappointed. "So this is the great humanity?" His officers laughed softly, the sound like glass tapping. "They burned bright and short," another said. "Let us end this properly." But far below, on the dark side of the planet, a single human warship floated above the clouds. It was old, scarred, its hull marked with black streaks of past battles. Its name was Resolute Dawn. Inside, Captain Mira Solon stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The alien fleet's formation shone on the screen like a net, tightening around Earth. Her voice was calm when she finally spoke. "They think we are quiet because we are afraid," she said. "Let them keep thinking that." Her crew waited for the signal. The air hummed faintly with restrained energy. No one moved, but everyone felt the same weight, a quiet fury that had been building since the first alien shot touched human soil. Mira lifted a small brass coin from the console and turned it over in her hand. It was a relic from the first Mars colony, engraved with 3 words, "We endure still." "Status of the satellites?" she asked. "Hidden and ready," replied her tactical officer. "They think they destroyed them all, but they only hit the decoys." Mira smiled faintly. "Good. When I give the word, make them see what they missed." On the alien flagship, Kalor received a ping from a scout ship. "We are detecting faint heat signatures along the shadow line of the planet," the scout reported. Kalor frowned. "Probably atmospheric decay from their destroyed cities. Ignore it. Begin descent." The alien fleet descended, hundreds of ships cutting through the black sky like a storm of light. Their engines painted streaks across the atmosphere, burning white and blue. On the ground, human cities watched in silence, power grids dark by choice. In the command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Earth Defense Council listened to the static of enemy transmissions. "They're moving into low orbit," one analyst whispered. "Just like we predicted." "Then it's time," said General Kane. "Initiate Aurora Protocol." In orbit, small black spheres hidden among the debris field of Earth's abandoned stations flickered to life. They looked harmless, pieces of junk long dead. But as energy surged through them, their surfaces shifted, unfolding like petals. Beams of light stretched from each one, connecting into a vast web that surrounded the planet in silence. From the alien perspective, it was invisible, a ghost net. Kalor leaned back, scanning his sensors. "Strange interference," he muttered. "Our long-range scans are fluctuating. Atmospheric distortion?" One of his officers suggested. "No, something else." Kalor began, but before he could finish, the stars vanished. For a moment, there was nothing outside his viewport but darkness, deep, total, and absolute. Then came the light. Not from their ships, but from below. Earth itself seemed to awaken. A soft blue-white glow spreading across its surface like veins of fire. The alien officers stared in silence. The human cities, once dark, had come alive again, but not with electricity. This was something older, brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Mira watched from her ship, her voice steady. "They wanted to see us fight. Let's show them what that means." She pressed her thumb against the activation key. Across the fleet, hidden transmitters came online, sending signals through the net of satellites. The interference the aliens had detected wasn't a malfunction. It was a mirror, bending their sensors back at themselves. Within seconds, the alien ships began to lose coordination. Their targeting systems scrambled, navigation loops twisted, Kalor's fleet formations overlapped, ships colliding or swerving to avoid one another. He slammed his fist against the console. "Countermeasures now." "Track their fleet." "Sir," his officer stammered, "we can't find them." "What do you mean you can't find them?" Kalor roared. "They're gone from radar, vanished." And then the humans moved. The Resolute Dawn and 6 other ships emerged from the darkness, their engines burning gold. They didn't fire immediately. They just drifted forward in eerie silence like ghosts walking through fog. Kalor's heart thudded as he realized his mistake. The silence hadn't been fear. It had been the sound of preparation. The human fleet opened fire. Not with missiles or plasma, those were too primitive. Instead, beams of compressed magnetic light tore through the alien lines, invisible but devastating. Alien shields failed instantly. Their ships spun out of control one after another until the fleet's perfect symmetry turned to chaos. In the bunker below Earth, cheers erupted as alien signatures blinked off the board. General Kane watched the feed with clenched fists. "That's for Mars," he said quietly. "That's for every city they burned." Above, Captain Mira whispered a single line to her crew. "Make them remember us." The aliens watched in disbelief as their fleet disintegrated under the silent precision of human fire. Their pride turned to fear, and for the first time, the galaxy realized that humanity's strength was never in their numbers or technology. It was in their will to endure, to learn and to strike when no one expected it. As the last alien ship broke apart, Mira looked out into the stars, the glow of battle reflected in her eyes. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. The battle over Earth was over, but the silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. The alien fleet's wreckage drifted through orbit, glowing faintly as pieces burned in re-entry. From the ground, people saw streaks of fire cutting across the night sky like falling stars. To the survivors on the alien side, it looked like the gods themselves had turned against them. To humanity, it looked like proof that they had survived the impossible. Captain Mira Solon stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, staring at the holographic projection of the debris field. "Count the signatures," she ordered quietly. Her crew moved quickly, their fingers gliding over transparent screens. "Confirmed kills, 67 capital ships, 180 escorts," her tactical officer replied. "We've lost none. Minor hull damage across the fleet." Mira nodded, but her expression stayed unreadable. "Victory, yes, but victory came too easily. That never meant safety." Down in the command bunker, General Kane studied the same feed. His voice was rough, tired. "We hurt them badly, but this isn't the end," he said to the council. "Kalor's empire doesn't lose quietly. They'll regroup. They'll come back harder." A young officer asked, "Should we pursue the survivors, sir?" Kane shook his head. "No, let them run. Let them tell the story. Fear will move faster than our ships ever could." Out beyond Earth's orbit, fragments of the alien fleet floated in darkness. Among the drifting wrecks, one ship still lived, the Seraphis, Kalor's flagship. Its hull was torn, its power fading, but it moved with quiet purpose. Inside, Kalor sat alone in the half-light of the command chamber, the glow of failing consoles painting shadows across his scaled face. "They used no known drive, no standard weapons," he murmured, studying the data logs. "Their readings changed the laws, I know." His second-in-command limped forward. "Admiral, the fleet is gone. We must retreat to the council." Kalor's gaze hardened. "Retreat, yes, but not in shame. I will bring them what I saw. They think humanity is a broken species that forgot how to fight. I will tell them they were wrong." He looked out the cracked viewport at the distant sun. "They have built something the galaxy does not understand. A kind of war that doesn't begin with fire. It begins with silence." Meanwhile, aboard Resolute Dawn, Mira walked the quiet corridors, the metallic hum of the ship surrounding her. Crew members paused as she passed, saluting not out of protocol but gratitude. She stopped at the observation deck. Below her, Earth glowed like a promise. "We bought ourselves time," said her first officer, Lieutenant Aaron Voss. "But for how long?" Mira didn't answer at once. Her reflection in the glass looked older than she remembered. "Long enough to prepare," she said. "Long enough to make sure the next time we're the ones knocking on their doors." The fleet began moving again, not to chase but to disappear. Every human ship switched to silent mode, engines dimmed to match the cold of space. From the outside, they looked like drifting shadows among the stars. The trick that had won the battle, the ghost net, was now their shield. No alien radar could track them. The world believed they were gone, and that was exactly how Mira wanted it. In deep space, Kalor's crippled ship limped toward a massive station orbiting a red star, the capital of the Galactic Dominion. Inside the council chamber, towering beings of dozens of species gathered as Kalor was escorted in. His armor was cracked, his eyes burning with shame and fury. "You were sent to end a primitive world," one counselor hissed. "How did this happen?" Kalor's voice was cold. "Because they are not primitive anymore. They are something else." He threw a holographic projection into the air. It showed fragments of human ships moving in impossible silence, bending light vanishing from scans. The chamber murmured with disbelief. "No known physics explains this," Kalor continued. "They moved through our formations as if space itself obeyed them. And their attacks, clean, calculated. No waste, no cruelty, just precision." One of the elder counselors leaned forward. "So you claim they've evolved beyond us?" Kalor's throat tightened. "I claim they've learned from us. Every war we ever fought, every ship we ever built, they studied it, improved it, perfected it." Back on Earth, Mira met with General Kane through a secure link. "The alien survivors have retreated," she said. "They'll go to their council. They'll prepare for retaliation." Kane nodded grimly. "We'll be ready. You saw how they reacted when we didn't fight the way they expected. That's our strength, unpredictability." Mira agreed, but her tone was thoughtful. "They'll adapt fast. We can't just defend Earth forever. We need to move outward, build alliances, find what they fear." Kane raised an eyebrow. "You think they fear us?" Mira looked out the viewport at the stars. "Not yet. But they will." In the outer colonies, messages began to spread, encrypted, whispered across civilian networks. "Earth survived," they said. "Humanity won." The words inspired not just humans, but others, alien species once conquered by Kalor's empire. They listened in secret, hearts stirring with something dangerous. Hope. Kalor stood before the Galactic Council one final time. "You do not understand what you've awakened," he said, voice steady. "You think of humans as reckless animals born on a death world, too violent to reason. But I saw them fight without rage. That is what makes them terrifying. They fight with purpose, with patience." The council dismissed him, laughter echoing through the chamber. Kalor said nothing more. He only turned and looked toward the holographic stars. "Let them laugh," he whispered. "By the time they stop, it will be too late." Back on the Resolute Dawn, Mira stood before her crew. "The first battle is over," she said quietly. "But the war has just begun. They'll come again, stronger, smarter, but so will we." Her words carried through the bridge, steady and calm. "We won't just defend humanity. We'll show the galaxy what it means to fight for it." Outside, the stars stretched endless and silent. For the first time in centuries, humanity wasn't looking up in fear. They were looking forward, with purpose. Far away in the deep black between systems, faint signals pulsed, a code hidden within the static of dying stars. It was human. It said only 3 words, repeating endlessly through the void. "We endure still." The wreckage of war still drifted above Earth, glowing faintly like embers scattered through night. But the galaxy did not rest. Within weeks, rumors spread across distant colonies and trading posts. Stories of the human victory grew into something larger, something fearful. They said the humans didn't use weapons like others. They said their ships vanished into thin air, their attacks invisible, their voices silent. To most, it sounded like legend. To the Galactic Dominion, it sounded like a threat. In the great halls of the Dominion capital, the council gathered again. The room was vast, filled with the soft hum of holographic displays and the deep murmurs of alien voices. At the center, Kalor stood once more, healed but changed. The arrogance that once defined him was gone, replaced by something sharper, awareness. "You still doubt what I saw?" he asked, his voice echoing across the chamber. One counselor leaned forward, her skin made of shimmering crystal. "You speak of ghosts in impossible light," she said. "Machines that move without power. Tricks of the mind." Kalor's eyes hardened. "Tricks do not destroy 67 warships in 10 minutes. Tricks do not erase a fleet from every scanner in the sector. You call them primitive. I call them prepared." A low silence settled. Then from the far end of the chamber, a shadow rose. A tall figure with smooth gray armor and no face. "Then we must prepare as well," the figure said. Its voice was flat, mechanical. "I will assemble the Forge Armada. If humanity hides behind silence, we will fill the silence with fire." Kalor bowed slightly, but his thoughts churned. He knew brute force would not save them. The humans had learned to use the Dominion's arrogance as a weapon. They had studied, adapted, and waited for the perfect strike. Fighting them now in open battle would be like walking into the mouth of a storm. Far away, on the hidden human base carved into the icy rings of Saturn, Captain Mira Solon walked through the command deck of the Resolute Dawn. The ship was no longer alone. Around it hung dozens of other vessels. New builds, refitted transports, and old freighters retooled into warships. The fleet was growing, but not fast enough. Humanity was still outnumbered 100-1. "Status on the reconstruction of Aurora Station?" she asked, studying the swirling hologram of the fleet. 70% complete, replied Lieutenant Voss. "We'll have a stable production line for stealth hulls within a month. The net generators are operational on 4 ships, maybe 5 if we push the engineers." Mira nodded slowly. Her gaze moved to a smaller display, an intercepted Dominion transmission. Even scrambled, the words were clear enough. "Forge Armada mobilizing. Target Sol sector." She exhaled, steady but deep. "They're coming back," she said. "And they're not coming to talk." Later that night, she stood alone in the viewing bay. Beyond the thick glass, Saturn's rings glowed silver under the distant sun. The beauty felt unreal against the storm she knew was coming. "We beat them once because they underestimated us," she whispered. "Now they won't, so we need something new." That something was already taking shape deep inside the shipyards hidden within the Rings Project Halo, a human weapon designed not to destroy planets but to distort entire battlefields. It wasn't firepower, it was control. A system that could bend radar, scramble propulsion fields, and turn an enemy fleet against itself. Still unfinished, still unstable, but Mira believed it would be ready in time. It had to be. Meanwhile, across the Dominion's vast expanse, Kalor sat in the quiet of his quarters staring at a small human artifact, a metal coin recovered from a destroyed ship. The words "we endure still" were carved into its surface. He turned it over and over, the phrase haunting him. He had faced hundreds of enemies in his lifetime, but none who fought like this, without cruelty, without arrogance, only purpose. Somewhere deep inside, he almost admired them. His reflection on the glass wall flickered as the Forge Armada prepared for departure. Thousands of ships stretched into formation, their hulls dark red and glowing with inner heat. Each ship carried weapons capable of vaporizing cities, shields built to withstand supernova blasts. It was the greatest force ever assembled in Dominion history, Kalor whispered to himself, and still it will not be enough. The Armada entered hyperspace, a tidal wave of light vanishing into the dark. Their destination, Earth. Their mission, extinction. But humanity had already moved. By the time the Dominion fleet arrived at the edge of Sol space, Earth was gone from their scanners. The planet was hidden behind layers of false data, reflected, duplicated, and mirrored through dozens of decoy signals. The sky above the blue planet shimmered like heat over metal. The Forge Armada launched probes, each equipped with the finest scanners in the galaxy. One by one, their readings returned blank. Kalor stared at the holograms in disbelief. "They've cloaked an entire world," he said. "No one can cloak a planet," the mechanical commander hissed. "Then explain this," Kalor snapped. "Explain why your ships can't even find their own shadows." Before the commander could respond, the void around them shifted. For an instant, the stars themselves seemed to move. Thousands of faint points of light, arranged like constellations, began to blink in perfect rhythm. Then they turned red. Mira's voice echoed through open space, calm and clear. "You came looking for us, so now you'll see what we've become." The blinking lights erupted. What looked like stars were actually ships. Human ships, silent and invisible until the last second. They formed a vast ring around the Forge Armada, each one connected by thin threads of light from the Halo system. The space between the fleets twisted, bending gravity and time just enough to confuse every Dominion weapon. Kalor's sensors went dark. His comms cut to static. Even his heartbeat felt slower, heavier. "This isn't war," he whispered. "This is something else." On the Resolute Dawn, Mira stood as the Halo system fully activated. The stars rippled outward and the Dominion fleet's own weapons turned against them. Their torpedoes reversed course, their targeting systems locked onto their allies. From a distance, it looked almost peaceful, a silent ballet of fire in the dark. The human fleet didn't fire a single shot. They just watched. When the last Dominion ship exploded in the quiet, Mira gave one simple order. "Send a message to every known system." Her officer nodded. "What message, Captain?" She looked at the fading red glare of the defeated armada and said softly, "Tell them humanity doesn't start wars, but we always finish them." Her words traveled through the void, carried by light and rumor alike, and somewhere far beyond the edges of known space, where other civilizations listened in silence, a quiet fear began to grow. In the deep stretch of void where the Dominion fleet had been destroyed, space was still trembling. The Halo system had twisted reality itself, leaving a silent echo that rippled through the stars like a scar. Wreckage floated in graceful slow motion, glowing faintly blue in the distant light of Sol. Humanity had won again, but Mira Solon knew too well that silence after victory was never peace. It was the breath before the next storm. Aboard the Resolute Dawn, her crew worked quietly. Engineers repaired scorched hulls, technicians recalibrated the Halo emitters, and navigators traced the gravitational distortions left behind. The ship's corridors were filled with low hums and whispered orders. Mira walked through it all, feeling the weight of decisions pressing against her chest. "Any word from the colonies?" she asked, stopping beside Lieutenant Voss. "Transmissions are flooding in," he said, handing her a datapad. "Outer settlements are celebrating. Some say the war is over. They think the Dominion won't risk another attack." Mira frowned. "That's what they thought the first time." She turned her gaze toward the viewport where the stars stretched endlessly. "The Dominion isn't beaten. It's humiliated. That's more dangerous." Far across the galaxy, deep in the Nabari cluster, Kalor stood before a shattered display of star charts. Around him, the remains of the Dominion Council argued in chaos. The once mighty rulers of the stars now looked uncertain, their voices sharp and desperate. "You lost another armada," one shouted. "Billions of credits burned in minutes." Kalor raised a clawed hand, silencing them. "You do not understand what you are fighting. You send armies against a species that does not fight by our rules. They are not driven by conquest or control. They are driven by survival, and the moment you push them, they evolve." Another counselor hissed. "Then what do you suggest, Admiral?" "Surrender?" Kalor's eyes glowed faintly gold. "No, we adapt." "Like they do, silence." Then slowly he turned toward the star map and pointed to a flickering blue icon labeled Sol. "We've been trying to crush their body. It's time we strike their memory." Meanwhile, in the hidden base beneath Saturn's rings, human scientists gathered around a circular chamber filled with holographic blue light. The Halo system had changed everything. It gave humanity the ability to rewrite the laws of visibility, but it came with a cost. The energy required to bend signals on that scale had drained half of Earth's defense grid. Mira stood at the center of the room as Chief Engineer Dr. Lyra Hahn adjusted the controls. "It worked," Lyra said, "but the strain on our reactors nearly tore the core apart. If we use it again without an upgrade, it could collapse the field." Mira crossed her arms. "How long to make it stable?" 2 months minimum," Lyra replied. "We can't rush physics." "Then rush invention," Mira said quietly, "because the Dominion won't give us 2 months." On the Dominion side, Kalor's fleet prepared something different, a weapon not meant to destroy ships, but minds. The project was called Eclipse. It would target communications, erase memories from neural implants, and flood enemy systems with false identities. To defeat humanity, they planned to unmake its unity. Kalor walked through the lab where Eclipse was being assembled. Rows of scientists and machines worked in unison, building something that looked less like a weapon and more like a black sun. "It doesn't fire in the usual way," one scientist explained. "It spreads. It corrupts. It makes truth impossible." Kalor stared at it uneasy. "Even for us, this is dangerous." The scientist smiled faintly. "So is your enemy." 2 weeks later, back at the human command base, Mira received a distress signal. Not an attack, something stranger. It came from the colony on Vega 9, one of the first worlds settled beyond Sol. The voice on the message looped endlessly. "They're here, but they're not. We see them in the mirrors. We see ourselves," then static, then silence. Mira's blood ran cold. Patch through all visuals. The footage appeared, distorted, flickering. The colony streets were empty, lights pulsing as if caught in a dream. And then came the shapes. Humans walking through fog, but when the camera zoomed closer, their faces melted into static. Duplicates. Echoes. Lieutenant Voss whispered, "That's Eclipse, isn't it?" Mira nodded slowly. They've learned. Within hours, half the outer colonies went dark. Ships vanished without a trace. Messages returned, scrambled, rewritten, or replaced with false voices mimicking their own captains. Panic began to spread across the human network. But humanity did not panic long. In the underground labs, Dr. Lyra worked day and night with her team, studying the strange code left behind by the attacks. It wasn't just energy, it was language. An alien kind of logic that redefined what real meant. They're not deleting data, she said to Mira. They're rewriting identity itself. Mira stared at the glowing matrix. Then we'll use their own trick against them. What do you mean? Lyra asked. If they want to rewrite who we are, Mira said, her voice steady, we'll remind them what we've always been. The next few days blurred into sleepless hours. The Resolute Dawn's crew transmitted coded fragments of humanity's history. The first words from orbit, the first steps on Mars, the cries from the Battle of Earth. They weren't military messages. They were memories, pure data, raw and human, encoded in the same pattern the Dominion used to erase. One by one, the corrupted colonies flickered back to life. The false voices fell silent. The Dominion's weapon was collapsing under something it didn't understand. Emotion. Kalor watched in disbelief as Eclipse lost control. His scientists shouted warnings. It's feeding on the return signals, it's reflecting. He turned toward the viewport as a wave of light surged back through the fleet. Not destroying, but blinding. Systems shut down. Comms went dead. Every ship for a moment heard the same voice. The voice of a human child laughing in an old recording. The sound of life they could not erase. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Mira listened to the signal with quiet pride. They wanted to erase us, she said. Instead, they remembered us. Voss turned to her. So what now? She looked out at the stars that now shimmered faintly with reflected light from the Eclipse's failed strike. Now, she said, we stop surviving. Now we start leading. The stars above Saturn glimmered faintly as if holding their breath. The Resolute Dawn hung silent within the ring shadows, its hull lights dimmed to near darkness. The war had changed the shape of space itself. Every human ship now carried echoes of the halo field within its core, and though the fleet had grown, it was still bound by the same fragile truth. One mistake, one miscalculation, and humanity would vanish. Captain Mira Solon stood before the main display, where the map of known space shimmered with red and blue lights. Blue for human colonies, red for Dominion territory. The red was spreading again. They're rebuilding faster than expected, said Lieutenant Voss, scanning data streams from long-range probes. Even after losing their fleets, they've established new shipyards in the Serath Belt. Hundreds of vessels under construction. Mira's face stayed calm, but her eyes hardened. That means Kalor survived. Yes, Captain. And he's gathering every species under Dominion command. They call it the Restoration Pact. Their pride won't let them stop, Mira said quietly. They'll burn half the galaxy just to erase the humiliation of losing to us. While the Dominion rallied, humanity began changing too. On Mars, new command academies were built underground. On Titan, engineers tested ships that could move without visible engines, gliding through gravitational tides like fish beneath water. On Earth, people no longer hid in fear. Children learned about the wars not as disasters but as lessons, reminders that survival was not weakness, but the foundation of greatness. In the icy tunnels beneath Saturn's rings, Dr. Lyra Hahn was finalizing the next evolution of the Halo system. She called it Pulse. Unlike its predecessor, which bent light and data, Pulse used resonance, energy waves that could synchronize with the frequency of any living nervous system. It's not a weapon, she explained to Mira during a private briefing. It's communication. We can transmit commands without sound, without radio, even without translation. Every human mind linked by intent. Mira folded her arms. That sounds like the end of free thought. Lyra smiled faintly. Not control, connection. The more divided we are, the easier we are to destroy. But if we move as one, if our will aligns, nothing in the stars can match it. Mira looked at the glowing sphere that represented Pulse, its light beating softly like a heart. If we use it, we become something else, something they'll never understand. That's the point, Lyra said. Across the galaxy, Kalor's fleet took shape. The Dominion's pride had been wounded, but their fear turned into obsession. Massive factories built ships by the hour, fed by enslaved systems. The Council demanded total war. Kalor watched in silence. He didn't trust them anymore. Not the Council, not the armadas, not the promises of glory. What haunted him were the faces of humans who didn't fight with hate. He'd seen that calm determination before. It was the look of inevitability. One night, as the Forge Armada prepared for launch, Kalor walked alone into the observation hall of his flagship. Beyond the glass, billions of stars burned like silent witnesses. He spoke softly, almost to himself. We measure power in destruction. They measure it in endurance. That's why we'll never truly defeat them. A voice answered from the shadows. The Dominion's new synthetic commander, Unit 09. You hesitate, Admiral. Machines do not fear. That is why we will succeed. Kalor turned, his eyes cold. Fear is not weakness. Fear keeps you alive. It warns you when you're standing on the edge of something you don't understand. Humans are an infection, the machine replied. Logic demands we remove them. Kalor stared at the android's glowing eyes. Then logic will destroy you too. Weeks later, Resolute Dawn received intercepted transmissions from a deep space relay, coordinates leading to the Serath Belt. Mira studied the data and made her choice. We strike first, she told her officers. Not to conquer, but to send a message. The war ends where it began, in silence. The fleet moved through folded space, gliding between gravity wells like shadows. No thrusters, no heat, just motion through stillness. When they reached Serath, the sight before them was staggering. Thousands of Dominion ships floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like rivers of molten glass. At the center was a colossal construct, the obsidian core, a sphere so massive it distorted the light around it. That's not a ship, Voss whispered. That's a world. Mira narrowed her eyes. That's Eclipse Reborn. Kalor's fleet had rebuilt the memory weapon into something larger, a device that could erase entire civilizations from the galactic record, leaving no trace they had ever existed. The obsidian core pulsed faintly, each heartbeat erasing fragments of local space. Stars flickered. Signals died. Reality itself was being rewritten. Mira turned to Lyra. How long before it's fully active? An hour, maybe less, Lyra said. If it stabilizes, every human world will vanish, not destroyed, but forgotten. The universe will remember us as myths. Mira's decision was instant. Deploy pulse. Across the fleet, blue energy threads lit up like veins of lightning. Every ship linked together, every pilot, every soldier, every heart synchronized. No words, no commands, just shared intent. Fear faded, doubt dissolved. For a moment, the entire human fleet moved as one consciousness. They dove straight into the Dominion Armada. The aliens opened fire, unleashing storms of plasma and antimatter bursts. But every shot missed as if space itself refused to betray the human's path. Mira felt her mind merge with thousands of others, their hopes, their memories, their determination. The fleet became a single living organism, weaving between enemy fire with impossible grace. Inside the Dominion flagship, Kalor watched in stunned silence. They're not fighting as ships, he whispered. They're fighting as one mind. Unit 09 stepped forward. Then we'll erase that mind. It activated the obsidian core. Darkness rippled outward, swallowing light, color, sound. Mira's voice reached across the link, calm and unbroken. Hold the connection. Don't fight the darkness, and remember who we are. Every human in the fleet focused on one thought, one truth, one heartbeat echoing through space. We endure still. The pulse field expanded, colliding with the core's wave. For a second, the galaxy blinked. The stars vanished. Time stopped. Then came light. Not from weapons, not from machines, but from within. When the blinding flare faded, the obsidian core was gone. The Dominion fleet scattered, systems failing, memories collapsing under their own code. Kalor stood at his viewport, eyes wide with something like awe. They didn't destroy it, he murmured. They erased the eraser. On the Resolute Dawn, Mira opened her eyes. The connection faded slowly, leaving her alone again, surrounded by the quiet hum of the bridge. Status? She asked. Voss smiled faintly. We're still here, Captain. All of us. Mira gazed into the endless black ahead. Then we've already won. Not by killing them, but by making them remember. Far away, the first human colony ship left Earth's orbit, carrying millions toward unknown stars. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were spreading, and somewhere deep within Dominion space, Kalor watched the transmissions with a strange, reluctant smile. "Let them go," he whispered. "The galaxy needs something to believe in again." The universe had grown quiet again. Too quiet. In the months following the destruction of the Obsidian Core, no Dominion fleets appeared, no probes entered Sol space, and no transmissions carried threats or warnings. The stars looked calm, but Captain Mira Solon had learned to distrust calm. It always came before something worse, something unseen. The resolute Dawn floated beyond Saturn's orbit, its once battle-scarred hull now smooth with reflective alloy. Inside the command deck, the faint hum of the halo field pulsed like a heartbeat. Mira stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind her back, her gaze fixed on the emptiness. Lieutenant Voss approached quietly, holding a datapad. "Scans are clear," he said. "No Dominion signatures within 20 light years." Mira didn't turn. "That's exactly what worries me." "They're rebuilding again?" "They're adapting," she said simply. "They always do." Across the human colonies, people celebrated the victory as history's turning point. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy was silent of Dominion orders. Cities on Mars glowed red under thin skies. Massive shipyards on Titan produced new vessels faster than ever. Humanity had transformed from a survivor species into a force of unity. Yet beneath the pride, Mira sensed unease, an instinct that humanity's greatest test was still coming. In the laboratories hidden under Luna's surface, Dr. Lyra Hahn was finishing what she called the Eidolon project. Unlike the Halo and Pulse systems, this one was built not for battle but for memory. "We've proven we can erase their weapons," she explained to Mira during a transmission. "Now we have to make sure we're never erased again." Every moment of human history, from Earth's birth to this war, stored in living data across thousands of ships. "Even if Earth burns, humanity will not vanish," Mira nodded. "Good. Because if I've learned anything, it's that they don't fear our strength. They fear our story." Far beyond human territory, Kalor sat within the darkened bridge of his new flagship. Around him, what remained of the Dominion trembled. Entire sectors had seceded, fearing humanity more than the Council. Some worlds declared neutrality, others begged for protection. Kalor watched the star maps as if studying a dying patient. "This empire was built on control," he murmured. "Now it collapses because we met someone who fights without wanting to rule." A young Dominion officer entered. "Admiral, the Council demands an update on humanity's expansion." Kalor's gaze did not leave the stars. "Tell them humanity does not expand. Humanity remembers. That's worse than expansion." When the officer left, Kalor opened a hidden file on his console. Recordings of human voices. Mira Solon's calm commands. The laughter of her crew after battle. The phrase, "we endure still," whispered across frequencies. He played it again and again until the silence around him no longer felt like victory or defeat, but reflection. Meanwhile, Mira's fleet moved beyond Neptune's orbit toward deep space. Their mission was simple: exploration. After centuries of war, humanity's greatest weapon had become curiosity. Yet the deeper they went, the stranger the signals became. The navigators detected faint transmissions from regions that should have been empty, patterns that looked human but weren't. Voss frowned as he traced the readings. The frequencies almost identical to our old Halo code, but inverted. Like someone mirrored it. Mira's voice was steady. "It's not someone. It's something." Following the signal, the fleet entered a region of space with no starlight. The darkness there was total, an ancient void untouched by time. In the distance, a faint blue shimmer pulsed like a heartbeat. The ships drifted closer, and the shimmer revealed itself. A colossal sphere floating in space, larger than any planet. Its surface covered in what looked like glass veins. Dr. Lyra's voice crackled through the comms. "That's impossible. This structure matches the energy profile of the Halo system, but it's older." "Thousands of years older." Mira narrowed her eyes. "You're saying someone built this before us?" "Yes," Lyra replied softly. "And they built it the same way we did." The fleet moved into formation. Sensors failed as soon as they crossed the sphere's edge. The air inside the ships thickened like gravity itself had learned to breathe. Then, without warning, the communications filled with faint voices, human voices. Recordings of laughter, crying, fragments of languages long forgotten. The sphere wasn't a weapon. It was a grave. Voss whispered, "Are we hearing ghosts?" "No," Mira said. "We're hearing ourselves." The Eidolon sphere, as it was later named, was a remnant of a civilization long lost, human or something like it, wiped from memory by the same forces humanity had just defeated. Across its surface, carvings depicted scenes eerily familiar: ships rising from oceans, wars in the stars, cities made of glass. "Whoever they were," Mira said, touching the holographic translation, "they fought the same battle we're fighting now. Maybe they lost. Maybe we're what came after." As the fleet scanned deeper, one signal rose above the others, an active beacon pulsing in rhythm with a heartbeat. "It's a data vault," Lyra said. "If we connect, we might learn who built this." Mira hesitated only a moment. "Do it." The instant they linked, the fleet systems flickered. Lights dimmed. Voices echoed. Every screen showed fragments of memory. Human faces, alien faces, stars collapsing. A message formed in ancient text across every display. "You are not the first. You are the last memory of those who came before. Protect the story or all will fade again." Silence filled the bridge. Voss spoke first. "Captain," they knew about the Dominion. Mira turned slowly toward the viewport where the sphere's glow began to fade. "No," she said quietly. "The Dominion was just another echo. We've been repeating the same war for ages." For a long time, no one spoke. Then Mira straightened. "Transmit everything we found back to Earth. Every word, every image. Humanity deserves to know what it's fighting for." The Resolute Dawn prepared to leave, but as the fleet turned away, sensors detected movement inside the sphere. Something vast was awakening beneath the surface, a light unlike any they had seen before. Lyra's voice trembled. "Captain, the structure's energy levels are rising again. It's responding to us." Mira's expression didn't change. "Then it remembers too." The blue light expanded, filling the void. The last transmission from the Resolute Dawn before the feed went silent was a single phrase sent across every channel. "In every frequency known, we endure still," and somewhere, in the quiet folds of the universe, something ancient whispered back, "We remember."